Now, the next panel I'm very, very excited about. Much has been said about technology and also how technology is impacting a workforce, because everyone talks about innovation and technology and how it's going to change a company. How does that come through on the other side? Because obviously, we've got the questions of, will technology replace humans? Will it enhance jobs? Is it a threat? Is it an opportunity? None of us sort of really know. And how do we obviously attract the new talents and the best talents to sort of the industry? So these are the areas that they're going to cover. We've got some really seasoned panelists on this particular session from some great companies. So we're honored to have the session moderated by a lady called Xiaojun Huang. Please forgive me if I have not pronounced it well enough on this, but it's Xiaojun Huang, who's the project executive, Upstream Digital Transformation for ExxonMobil. So I hand over to you, Xiaojun. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Future Oil and Gas panel. The theme of our session is how an oil price crash accelerates the need for digitization, a future workforce and workplace. The fact that we are able to hold the Future Oil and Gas conference through digital technology is a demonstration that we are at the beginning of the future. It is my pleasure and a great honor to moderate this session. Join with me on this panel are 4 digital and technology leaders representing diverse sectors of our industry. Adriana Garcia of Shell, Mika Tianhara of ROCSOLE, Adrian Fielding of Honeywell, and Vasim Khan of McDermott. Before we proceed to our discussion, let's first to get to know our panel members. Adriana, Mika, Adrian, Vasim, could you please in this order take turns to introduce yourself, your title, primary responsibility, and a high-level background?
Yeah. So I will start. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I am Adriana Garcia. I am born and raised in Houston, Texas, and some background on myself is I am a graduate from Texas A&M University with a degree in MIS, and I joined Shell straight out of college. I have been an IT professional here at Shell for 19 years. Starting my career as a programmer, I then transitioned into an analyst role, and then followed by a few years as a project manager. And my project management role eventually led me into what is my current role as a digital lead, concentrating on mobility for the enterprise. So I look forward today to talking to you about automation, giving you some examples of some great benefit and transformation that we've seen, as well as talking about our workforce. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Adrian Fielding. I'm based in Kent in the UK. My background is I was an avionics engineer in the Royal Air Force for 10 years. Now I'm the Global Director for Plant, Process and Personnel Safety within Honeywell, and have been with Honeywell for 15 years so far. All of the 15 years has been spent in either safety or security, all in the industrial industries. I'm responsible for a broad and integrated safety portfolio that includes digital transformation of the workforce, environmental health and safety, and operational risk management, as well as core technologies around fire and gas and industrial security. I'm really looking forward to sharing some experiences and insights as part of this panel today. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Mika Tianhara, CEO of ROCSOLE. I have a background as a mechanical engineer, both in manufacturing and energy technologies, and I have an MBA as well. And perhaps I'm, in a sense, with the digital workforce, etc. I'm based in Oslo, but my company is in Finland. So having to rely a lot on the, let's say, digital tools. In the past 20 years, I've held key positions in 8 startups, doing both MVPs, commercial launches, as well as scaled up global entities, and commercialized some 20 technologies in this time. Some 15 years, I've been working with the upstream processing environment, looking, or let's say my quest being how to make upstream processing more efficient in that sense. So I'm looking forward to also share my views and discuss in this panel. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Greetings from Houston. My name is Vasim Khan. I'm the Global Vice President for Digital and Analytics in McDermott. So in my 30 years, I've done equipment design, I've done site project management, commissioning onshore and offshore, and operations management. I ran the Middle East operations for Technip and then joined McDermott as Global Head of Engineering. So I now run the analytics and digital program. So what are we trying to do as part of the program? We're trying to get adjacent to industry technologies into the oil and gas industry. We heard earlier today that our industry, or parts of our industry, I think we shouldn't paint the whole industry with the same brush, but parts of the industry are not very digitally enabled, let's say. So our task, my group within McDermott, is bring in digital technologies, analytical tools into the industry to better deliver projects and to help our clients, people like Shell, like ExxonMobil, better operate their plants.
Great. So the oil and gas industry has embraced digital transformation in recent years that largely aims at 4 categories of benefits, and our panelist has gave you a preview of that, but largely they sum up in 4 categories. The first is to increase operational safety and overall productivity. The second is to maximize return on capital and assets. The third is to better manage risk and uncertainty. The fourth is to modernize our employee experience. The 2020 oil price crash undoubtedly brought unprecedented business challenges, and most companies are under severe cash flow constraints. Significant reduction has been made to business activities. At the same time, we see the acceleration of digital transformation as a necessity to overcome the current challenge. So our first question is to explore business benefits. Specifically, how do emerging digital technologies benefit business? What are the working examples with a focus on data, AI, machine learning, and automation? And I would pose the question to Vasim first to lead the discussion.
Okay, thank you. So as a capital project delivery company, what do our clients look for? What they are looking for is delivery certainty. How do we deliver the capital projects, and these are multi-billion-dollar projects, on time, on budget, safely, and in a manner that meets the project or the client business objective? So our industry tends to operate as silos. So one of the first objectives we've got is how do we de-silo the industry? And when I talk about silos, I talk about engineering, supply chain, procurement, and fabrication, construction, and so on. Information within silos moves fairly well. Information across silos doesn't move well. And information in our world tends to be PDF, Word files. So what we are trying to do, what the industry needs to do, is move away from moving documents to moving data. The concept of a single source of truth, where you enter data once and that data lives the life of the project and the life of the facility. So that's where big data, or that's where data becomes the core of what we're doing. But data in itself is not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is actionable insight. So data in context will give you information. Information with domain knowledge will give you the ability to take on-time decisions. So what we need are the tools that adjacent industries already have to be able to move data in context to the right person, to the right time, at the right time, so that the decisions can be made in a correct manner. How we are doing this in McDermott is that we're building basically what we call a Gemini XD program. It is using a tool very common in the manufacturing industry, a product lifecycle management tool. And we're using that to manage the movement of data across the project. And our vision is that this data will then be a living digital twin, a dynamic digital twin in the operations phase. Real examples, we're now starting to apply these on the large projects we are delivering for a number of our clients. We are running pilots in the Middle East and here in the US to demonstrate that by moving data at the right time rather than moving information, we not only reduce the risk of non-quality, but we deliver a better quality product, and we deliver a product with certainty. On our construction site, for example, you mentioned safety. Safety is a big issue. Now, with cameras becoming exceedingly cheap and with data becoming exceedingly cheap to manage, we now have the ability of monitoring our construction site and using AI to pick up unsafe, or more importantly, predict unsafe events. So again, to wrap up this section, is data is an enabler. It will enable us to better deliver projects. It will enable us to better run projects. And what we need to do is look at adjacent industries and bring in the learnings from healthcare, from retail, from aerospace, from automotive, apply it to our industry so that we can have a paradigm shift on how we deliver capital projects.
Thank you, Vasim. And I wonder if Adriana, would you add from the operator perspective to this question?
Yeah. There's absolutely no question that has already been proven the benefits of having having access to the right data at the right time. We have seen by way of automation and have confirmed that there is significant business benefit of completion of the work at the job site at that moment in time. So whether it's while they are at the job site, completion of the work, or in a much more efficient and much faster. And this in turn has if I can give one specific scenario that what we have heard related to inspections is what has taken, or what would take 2 to 3 to complete is now a matter of hours. And this is by way of encompassing mobility, as well as having the right tools, and as mentioned, that while our portfolio continues to evolve, it is having these solutions of something like the digital twin. But there's no doubt, and this has already been proven, that this has made a big difference with increasing hands-on tool time, productivity, decreasing wasted time, and increasing making faster decisions, and potentially also acknowledging avoiding potential downtime to equipment of being able to address something in such a quick manner.
Thank you, Adriana. So the business benefits based on Vasim and Adriana mentioned, it really sum up to the right data with the right tools to the right people at the right time, at the fingertip with trust, and we should really learn from adjacent industries. And now we wanted to move to the second question, which is to examine the digital acceleration in this year. So, Adrian from Honeywell, what kind of a digital acceleration do we see in 2020 to help companies to overcome challenges caused by this pandemic while making sure that solutions are future ready?
Yeah, thanks, Xiaojun. We at Honeywell, we've seen an acceleration of digital transformation around the workforce, and in particular around worker safety, as our customers look to maintain safe operations with a reduced complement of people. 49% of end users this year have seen funding for digital projects increase by 5 to 20%. Which is significant over previous years, and that is forming the acceleration. Then we add the pandemic into the mix, and that's created challenges around entry management, social distancing, contact tracing, initially all using paper questionnaires at site entry. However, we're now seeing a transition to online pre-entry registration that allows for scheduled entry that can integrate with real-time location to assist social distancing and contact tracing once the workers are on the site. Now, once on the tools, there's an increase now in remote solutions like Honeywell Worker Assist or Expert on Call, where remote guidance can be provided in real time through an ocular and a headset by an experienced worker that could be possibly isolating at home or in the control room, and providing that information in real time to a less experienced operator that is on task in the field. I think overall, it's very important to appreciate that there will be a life and operations after the current pandemic. It will be wholly different. And it's important that we should be recognizing this as an opportunity to accelerate efficiencies through digital transformation, choosing integrated solutions that are scalable and that will provide benefit now and broader benefits in the future to the digitization of safety has to be the forefront of any decision, any business decision right now.
Thank you, Adrian. Mika, would you like to add to that comment?
Sure, actually, thank you. I think, first of all, to be hands-on on this, I think we have to fix the baseline. Working with critical process equipment like separators, actually more than 50% fail due to faulty instrumentation. So before starting to think about digitalization, it's important to have the right type of instrumentation there. And I think we are one of the enablers for that, really, because that carries so much critical information from a highly variable process, of course. But doing that, you can get access to not just having passive sensors, but actually active in situ sensors. And based on that critical data, lean data in terms of having one signal, you can then start to, if you have this as a rich database or data transmission, also start to create a digitalization part of that. Also for, let's say, the other aspect here, what we have seen ourselves in terms of the operation and doing that, correcting that baseline, because so many separators are not functioning properly today. But there's a strong need in terms of fixing this issue. Then, of course, operators come and say that, okay, with the pandemic situation, how can we actually get the installation done with actual hardware to enable this digitalization part? So we're also stepped up very much on the remote startup, like Adrian said, also on let's say, remote guidance, remote support. And I think that will strongly increase also in the times coming. People and operators are getting used to it. And of course, operators are also on a different level on their transition here. on the digital transformation. So some are in the early phase where we step in and also guide them. Some others are already, let's say, more adapting to it, and it is natural. So I think it will just continue to be this way and create more business and being a regular part of how we transact.
Thank you, Mika. Adriana, would you like to give us an example from Shell's perspective on the remote operations?
Yeah, so it's I would say that what on the automation of, sorry, is this specific to the emerging digital technologies or specific to the acceleration?
Adriana, both.
Oh, did you? Oh, both. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry for the
So,
network delay.
yeah, no problem. I think there's several more examples that we have received confirmation from our workforce as similar to the one I mentioned earlier for our inspection use case. In general, it's what we have enabled in quite a quick and accelerated way is based off of the accessibility of not only the right data, but to the expertise as well. So virtual collaboration has been a huge impact in a very positive way with the pandemic and the need to respond in such a quick way to the changes of decreasing staff at the workplace, and also with the social distancing. We were really, if I could say, had the opportunity of accelerating strategy or opportunities that we had in the pipeline, and to really move those and get those kicked off a lot sooner. But there was it was just as it felt with having to address the pandemic. We did also receive a confirmation of the positive impact that it made, and not only with the data, but also with the experience of doing over-the-shoulder coaching, so to speak, and having virtual access for the individual at the job site, and being able to collaborate real time with a subject matter expert, for example, that was either in a different area of the asset or in a different geographic location altogether. But we have, in the spirit of what we had to, if I turn on to address the pandemic, internally, we have also seen there was a mention earlier of acceleration of digital transformation, and while this title is the workforce, this really means for the enterprise in its entirety. So in order to enable the workforce to be flexible and to for successful digital transformation, we also see the need throughout the entire enterprise, including in our foundation, of providing that support and providing those opportunities to throughout the workforce. So it was a spirit of let's test new solutions. Let's pilot and fail fast. Let's prove what works, and as given that we do not have the time available to be able, as we had previously, 2 years ago, or definitely even further than that. So I would probably finish on that point that it was with both understanding where we are within the organization, and understanding what we need to prioritize. That has also played an important factor on helping us to accelerate on new solutions, and embedding that, and assisting and working with the workforce for that digital transformation.
That really resonates with me. I see very similar activities and a trend and a benefit in ExxonMobil as well. And Vasim, McDermott sees across different industries, and you have a broader perspective. Would you add to what do you see in 2020 that come into digital acceleration?
Okay, so let me give you some real examples of what we have done over the past few months and what we have seen can be done over the next few years. So for those of you who are in Houston, yesterday was a cold day by Houston standard. It was 0 degrees Celsius, 32 Fahrenheit. So what I did was, I have a Range Rover. So right after breakfast, I remotely, using my iPhone, I turned my car on and set the temperature of my car at 21 degrees inside temperature Celsius. So I can remotely start up my car, and it goes through a series of checklists. The app goes through a series of checklists, talks to the car's computer, and if all the checklists are good, it turns it on. Now, we don't contemplate that, or we tend not to contemplate that in our industry. So what we have done over the past few months, real example, is we have an office in Chicago. It's a place called Plainfield, just outside of Chicago. And from that office, we remotely started up a small facility in Mexico, because we could not move people for internal reasons. We did not want to send people to Mexico. So we did a facility startup it's a gas terminal. It's a small gas terminal, not very sophisticated. But we did a facility startup sitting in Plainfield, Illinois, safely, without having to have people on the ground. A year ago today, we would never have contemplated that. A client would never have allowed us to do this. We have a plant we are close to finishing in Oman, in the Middle East. We had to commission a compressor. The gentleman was repatriated back to Japan in April when the virus issue hit us. And we then we mechanically completed, did all the tests on the compressor by what we call over-the-shoulder mentoring. So by over-the-shoulder mentoring, we use technology, something as simple as MS Teams, to be able to, MS Teams and HoloLens, to be honest, to be able to start up a very large compressor remotely. And we've got two other examples, which I don't want to spend too much time on them. In the engineering front, we had clients from Aramco who had to go back to Saudi Arabia. We used this technology of a startup in New York called Iris VR, which creates an avatar of the person. It mimics the height of the person, the arm length of a person, to be able to do a walkthrough through a 3D virtual model, take measurements, turn around, move around, do whatever you would normally do in a 3D model review, but we did it virtually at 3 different sites or 3 different locations together. Now, one thing I'd like to say is what is happening today has been accelerated. So COVID-19 has been a catalyst for not only our industry. Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca have managed to develop a vaccine which would normally take 5, maybe 10 years in a period of 10 months. So the technology being used in the vaccine development is technology which has not been used before. It's a new family of vaccines. So what has happened is that this past 9 months have been an accelerator for us. But what it has demonstrated is that technology which has existed, which we were reluctant to use, is usable. And not only is it usable in the circumstances we've got today, but it also saves you money. By not having to fly people from Plainfield to Mexico, I've saved money. By not having to have a vendor representative from MHI fly over to Oman, I have saved money. And I've also made it more efficient. So the technology which we are using today is actually not new. It has been around. What is different is how we are using the technology, and what is different is our acceptance, the industry acceptance of using this technology in a manner which we did not use 9 months ago. The challenge we have is that the work processes, the rules of the game, so to speak, have to keep up. Our codes, the client general practices, they have not kept up to the technology which is available today. So as I said earlier, technology is an enabler. What we now need to do as an industry is look at our work processes and see how do we need to modify our work processes to allow better deployment of the technology.
Thank you, Vasim, and thank you for the panel. To summarize the pillars of digital transformation, Vasim did a fantastic job. We really need to look at data, process, technology, and the people. And now we wanted to move to the people part of the conversation. That's first thinking about the talent retention and the cultivation. What are the positive changes that happens in our industry that will attract the future generation of employees? And as our industry leaps forward in digitization, will we see emerging tech roles? And how those roles will attract new personnel in the industry? That maybe we start with Miko.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I think let's put it that way, that I mean, we work also multi-industry. I mean, we see the typical, I mean, the general problems for process industry is very much linked to, let's say, there's emulsions, there's solids. So those are not just specific to oil and gas. And we work with fast-moving consumer goods, it's semiconductors, food processing, etc. I think, first of all, one thing there is that oil and gas might be more difficult to scale up because it's not just about deployment of new technology or implementation of digitalization, but how to scale up. That there I see ways of when we are scaling up that it's easier to get access to whole plants and manufacturing sites. But I think in terms of oil and gas, we have big challenges, and we have a task to actually show how we can make it more energy efficient, make energy more affordable, and produce it in a safe way, and make it cleaner. So I think we have to look at the whole value chain, collaborate even further, and be very clear on our visions and strategy moving forward, what we are doing for the industry. And as such, I think who's going to sit on that talent, or where does the young workforce and talent want to go? And I think it lays a burden, or let's say, it's not just the operators or EPCs and integrators or tech companies. I think we have to work together, but very much lies on that we are able to deploy technology, show that we are innovating and faster. So I think a lot of these niche and talent will probably also go to the tech companies and startups moving forward. That's my view on it.
Okay, thank you. Adrian, would you like to add to that?
Yes, I would. We're now seeing a focus on cutting-edge technologies such as connected devices, AR, VR tools, data analytics, machine learning, and mobile applications. These all form part of the digital transformation toolkit. I think employees now coming into the industry will be part of an ongoing digital transformation process, not just one that's happening now. This will drive future safety and efficiency. And it's an opportunity to make a difference through ideation, development, and inspiring creative thinkers of the future. Now, if I look at where we are now, in particular around environmental health and safety software in the oil and gas business, we're probably 49% of the customers that we surveyed are still doing things in either Excel or they're reporting it out on paper. The same results came back that, they see an increase now in the oil and gas space of 150% over the next 3 years, going from paper-based solutions to enterprise-wide environmental health and safety solutions that encompass all of the different silos that were talked about earlier. This is now going to really be the focus for the new employees coming into the oil and gas sector. And if I could give an example of how that's going to impact the organizations as a whole. If we bring data from connected wearables such as a personal gas detector, we can now automatically generate an environmental health and safety workflow. That might be industrial hygiene from a gas release because that person's been exposed to that release, or it's generating from that same gas release, it's generating an environmental workflow that looks at how much was released, takes data from both the safety devices and the process devices, looks at comparing that with the regulatory requirements, and automatically reporting that to the EHS leadership, plant leadership, and ultimately the corporate team. So taking all of these data sources together, the industry is going to need people that can analyze that data and look for trends in the process IIoT that led up to that gas release, and then automatically generate a workflow to the maintenance teams, for example. So we're predicting that the next step is a gas release, so we can be prescriptive in sending a maintenance team to go and address that potential release before it happens. What we're now doing is we're using predictive and prescriptive approach to safety that reduces the likelihood of the same event happening the second time. And then when we do that for every single incident over time, we're now reducing the cause or the potential for a safety disturbance on the site. And that then in turn makes sure that the site is online and producing, so it's more profitable and efficient to the business. And the new minds coming into the industry now are going to be critical and excited by the need for doing that development and analyzing that data and getting it in and improving that safety. It's a noble task.
Thank you, Adrian. Maybe for the time consideration, we'll move to another question to really examine these different digital technologies, automation, machine learning, analytics, and all the other kinds. How do they impact the human workforce? Any concerns about job security, training, and retooling? What about the kind of value-adding work that we have never done before, but with the new technology we're able to do today? Adriana, would you like to take the lead on that?
Sure. I would say that what we have seen is a spectrum of individuals, from folks that are hesitant. They do consider the digital transformation to be a job security issue for them. Where at the other end of that spectrum are your, if I could say, your go-getters, the individuals that are telling the designers of the solutions, what else this can do, and do not hesitate and really take on playing the champion, being the champion role for way of working. As far as what we've seen with new ways of training and retooling, I had mentioned before the new way of working of the accessibility of over-the-shoulder coaching, and also with a new way of doing particular or specific work that it can be a very different experience from the same application on your laptop compared to a mobile device. So what we are, as part of our ambition for that transformation, we now understand and have a very strong focus on the user experience. And from that opportunity, we then have a much more interest in ensuring that the user experience is prioritized. So that in itself can also change, the retooling, a different way of working, and a different way of learning as well. And some other consideration of working with the workforce is just the understanding and building that vision that it is not necessarily changing your work, but it's that, in other words, the scope of your work, but it is a different way of completing your work, and that can potentially, as I heard earlier, is the increase in tool time, hands-on tool times, is meant to also translate to more productivity and being able, doing the same scope of work, but being able to complete more and to do more. It's when there are concerns, and we will continue to have to, as part of this transformation, the change management aspect of this transformation is extremely critical. We must tap into that expertise and into that, if I could say, practice of being able to help the workforce along in this journey, and to ensure that both concerns are addressed, as well as new ideas are heard, and that we don't miss any new opportunities.
Thank you, Adriana. Mika, would you also provide some examples as to, on one side, the digital technology impact the workforce through more of a concern of a job loss and a job security? On the other side is people to embracing these technology because the benefit they bring to their daily work.
Yeah, of course. I think, I mean, it's still human-centric. It's us humans deciding what tools we use and how to innovate. But I think the context is always important. I think that a bit like Adrian said also previously here, that think about how can we do something more efficiently, and always think about the safety aspects around it. And it's not the first time we're, let's say, seeing a transformation. It's happened over the time in previous centuries and decades. So I think it's also a natural process with the innovation, that we embrace new work methods and tools in order to move ahead, making, let's say, work tasks more, let's say, more safe, or partly more automated, etc. But that means also that, let's say, personal capabilities, and we might need to be learning more and new things over time. But that is part of, let's say, I think that how humanity is moving ahead in that sense. And what I think personally, in terms of what I see in our company too, that well, we're actually also expanding our operations in that sense, because bringing in new let's say, reliable tools where we can shift, let's say, legacy technology that provides data in a few weeks. We do that in a few minutes time. So of course we are enabling the whole value chain to provide new methods, etc. But also looking at, are we attractive in that sense as a, let's say, a small startup company scaling up? We see that we attract a lot of applications when we have job openings. So I think there's plenty of room for new talent also in the times coming.
Thank you, Miko. Vasim, would you like to comment on talent as well as the human influence or the influence to human from these technologies?
Okay. We cannot deny the fact that there is going to be disruption to people's careers, especially people in the older age bracket with technology. If you go back 150 years, let's say, before the era of the internal combustion engine and widespread use of electricity, look at the typical job descriptions that people were doing. I mean, we had blacksmiths, we had people sweeping chimneys, we had people binding books. So why do we believe that 50 years from now or 30 years from now, the work we do today will be the same, or work we do tomorrow will be the same with the work we do today? So, I believe that the distinction we have between, say, mechanical engineers and data scientists is going to go away. I think the distinction between IT and engineering or IT and operations is going to go away. IT will be the hardware infrastructure, but everyone coming into the industry today and 10 and 15 years from now is going to be an IT specialist. They are going to be proficient in Python, in R, and all of the other, the easy programming tools that we have today. We have to remember, 10-year-olds in the UK are using Raspberry, which is a very simple computer, to do programming. So we've got 10-year-olds learning programming. These children, when they come into the industry, will have a totally different attitude, both professionally and culturally, to working. So Adriana is absolutely correct when she said we've got to look at the change management aspect. So the nature of our jobs will change. What behooves all of us, the governments and the industry, is to put in place a transitional training system where people in the cusp of the change can be trained in the new tools. Because we need that generation. We need people with domain knowledge to be able to transfer it to the incoming, the digitally aware generation that's entering the industry now. I believe, I'm an optimist, I believe that the industry, the energy industry, I don't want to use the word oil and gas, the energy industry will continue to attract talent as long as we can change our work processes to reflect the 50 years into the future way of working. If we can do that, if we can put in place a transition training system, and this is the government as well as the industry, I think we will have talent coming into the industry. What we cannot do is try and recruit a 22-year-old and tell that 22-year-old that they have to work on an Excel spreadsheet or they have to email a PDF document, because that 22-year-old will not stay in the industry. We've got to make this industry as technically advanced, not number 27, as Adam pointed out, as technically advanced as Silicon Valley, as Boston's Route 42, as the East End of London. We need to change the perception that we are followers or very slow followers to that we are at the cutting edge. And there is some very good work being done in the industry to do that. There's some really, really good startups up there. So yes, talent will come into the industry as long as we realize that the job descriptions need to change. We won't be hiring mechanical engineers and instrument engineers and operation engineers. We will be hiring people who are a combination of data scientists, of IT savvy, with theoretical and domain knowledge of what they are doing.
Thank you, Vasim.
Sorry, can I just interject there? So I was just do some close. We've got about 4 minutes left of the panel, and I wanted to maybe put a question forward to everyone. It was very interesting what Vasim was saying actually about the nature of change, because I think there's a lot of negativity around what innovation brings to the job market. And I think that's sometimes a very consistent problem within the energy, oil and gas industry. So what that transcript of what you just said, I think, Vasim, is brilliant, because exactly what it is. I think there's a period of transition, and I think people have got to look at what opportunities will also come from innovation, because there will be the old style of jobs that will go, but it will be over a period of time. So I think that's a message that probably needs to resonate more in the industry, but it's very, very well put. I want to just ask one question, because in my conversation with a lot of the operators I've had, many of them have talked about when they recruit now, they don't look at the same sectors. So, previously a lot of oil and gas operators will have recruited from rival operators within that job role. Now it's changing a little bit, and they're looking at other industries, especially when it comes to technology and innovation, because some of them are far, much further ahead than what oil and gas is. So, are you all looking at other sectors when you do recruit? Are you actually looking at particular industries that you want to bring that skill set into your organization? Or is it still a case of you're looking at the same sector, but maybe a different type of person?
Okay, maybe I'll take it first, Admin, to answer your question. I think we start to look for different types of a talent more in the area of a creative thinking, the design thinking, and in the area of a more human-centric working environment. With regarding to the traditional domain experts, we're more looking at the similar sectors, similar disciplines, but with the data analytics, data science training. So with that combination, as Vasim mentioned.
Anyone else has any comments on that at all?
Yeah, I'd like to add that, if I may, we're seeing this digital transformation now. It's driving workforce efficiencies. It was interesting to hear both Vasily and Adriana talk about over-the-shoulder technologies, and it is going to be important to train the new workforce in the interim with some of the skills from the old workforce. So we're using that technology to so that an experienced operator can go in the field and perform a task and have that recorded with a commentary, and then that goes into a repository for future use. This year, next year, 10 years' time, assuming the equipment is still there, and assuming we're not doing it remotely, right? So it's no different to, me in lockdown. I wanted to make a loaf of bread. I went on YouTube and followed step-by-step guide. It's as straightforward as that. And I think this new workforce are familiar with that. So we are recruiting from all industries. We're driving a lot of software, so a lot of software technology is coming through. And then, and to address the challenge or the perceived threat to the job market right now, I think it's more the efficiencies as opposed to the workforce reductions we're seeing. And I'll give you an example. So not too long ago, we used to communicate with pen and paper, and we used to put it in the mail. And then we got electronic mail, and we were able to communicate so much better. This year, but we still did face-to-face meetings, and we traveled to those meetings. This year in particular, we're now doing all of the electronic mail, and we're having the face-to-face meetings such as this at our desk. Each of those stages, we still complete a full working day. We completed a full working day, going to meetings, and now with Teams, it's still a full working day. We're just getting through a lot more. So we're much more efficient now. And that efficiency comes from that digital transformation. And then the overall result is improved operations and ultimately profits.
It's a very good point. I'd love to ask a couple more questions, but I can't because we're so interested in particular on this panel as well. But thank you very much to everyone on this panel. It's actually been brilliant. I've been very engaged in it. I hope you've all enjoyed it as well. So I wish it could run a little bit longer, but unfortunately we have to end it. So thanks for all your contributions and hope you enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.